What does it take to hold on to power for a lifetime? Iron will, ruthless politics, or just a really good PR team? Today we look into a fascinating phenomenon: world leaders, whom some might call dictators, who've ruled or held on to government not just for years, but for decades. From Cold War warriors to 21st century autocrats, these power players have defied revolutions, dodged coups, changed constitutions, and somehow still clung to power. Let's unravel the who, how, and why. Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Let us begin with Africa. Africa is the undeniable epicenter of long-ruling leaders. And right at the top sits a man who's practically synonymous with endurance: Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo of Equatorial Guinea. Obiang came to power in 1979 by ousting his uncle in a bloody coup. Since then, he's not just outlasted the Cold War, he's outlasted 7 US presidents. At 82, he is now the world's longest ruling non-royal head of state, clocking over 45 years in power. Elections? Sure. Competitive ones? Not quite. Opposition parties in Equatorial Guinea exist largely in name. Obiang once claimed he could kill anyone without consequence because he was in permanent contact with the Almighty.
Yo tengo la impresión de que en la vida política solamente existe el pasado, que es la historia, el presente de lo que estamos haciendo ahora. El futuro es incierto, no sabemos lo que va a pasar mañana. Por lo tanto, el pasado de Guinea creo que lo hemos hecho bien. Lo hemos hecho bien. El presente creo que todavía lo seguimos haciendo bien, pero no sé lo que pasará en el futuro.
Then comes Paul Biya of Cameroon. 91-year-old Paul Biya, he's ruled Cameroon since 1982 after already serving as Prime Minister since 1975. That's 50 years in top office. Nicknamed the absentee president, Biya reportedly spends months at a time at a luxury hotel in Switzerland. But don't mistake distance for weakness. His political grip remains iron-tight. Cameroonian opposition once joked they'd have to fly to Geneva just to protest his rule. Next up, Denis Sassou Nguesso from the Republic of Congo. Sassou Nguesso has ruled the Republic of Congo in 2 long stretches, 1979 to 92, and then again from 1997 up till today. Combined, that's over 40 years of dominance. Once a Soviet-aligned Marxist, he is now a firm friend of China and even France when convenient. A master of reinvention, Sassou Nguesso is proof that staying in power sometimes means changing your costume, not your script. Then comes Yoweri Museveni of Uganda. Uganda's Yoweri Museveni took office in 1986 after a bush war, and he's never left. That's 39 years and counting. Once praised for restoring order, Museveni has since amended the constitution twice, first to remove term limits, then to abolish age limits. Coincidence? Definitely not.
You know how democratic we are, so democratic that we are chaotic. Everything goes, freedom of speech, freedom of abuse, definitely democracy, the elections, the leadership changes, that one is definitely, we have achieved what we although the distortion now is that the participants are not democratic minded. They still want to use bribery in elections, to use lies. So really the issue is now just the quality of democracy. But the democracy itself has been institutionalized.
Museveni's son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, is now being groomed for power. Welcome to the age of dynastic democracies. Now let's head north, way north. We have a leader who is very popular in India. He is Vladimir Putin of Russia. Since 1999, Putin has ruled Russia as president, prime minister, or both, essentially running the country for over 26 years. He reset term limits, rewrote the constitution, and in 2024 won yet another presidential term. If he serves it through 2030, he'll surpass even Joseph Stalin. Putin was once a KGB agent stationed in East Germany. Today, he's a judo black belt and Russia's geopolitical chess master.
Have every reason to believe that no democracy, at least in the presidential election campaigns in certain countries of the West, including the United States, does not exist. So please accept this as an answer. And what is happening with this voting by mail in the United States of America? Who was standing there controlling the whole thing? No one. You can buy a vote for $10 and then you buy 1,000 votes and you just throw it in at midnight, the whole parcel of it. So that's the voting for you. That's democracy for you. We have nothing of the kind. Yes, we are trying to improve our system to make it better during the presidential campaigns. And we will be glad. We are willing to share this experience with anyone.
Up next, Ali Khamenei of Iran. Officially, Iran elects presidents, but the real power resides with Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Since succeeding Ayatollah Khomeini in 1989, Khamenei has ruled Iran for 36 years. He commands the military, judiciary, media, and virtually every organ of the state. Presidents come and go. Khamenei stays. Khamenei is also a published poet, often writing under a pseudonym. Moving to Southeast Asia, we have Hun Sen from Cambodia. For 38 years, Hun Sen led Cambodia with an iron grip, surviving war, coups, and even a UN-backed peace process. In 2023, he finally stepped down, but only nominally. His son, Hun Manet, now holds the prime ministership, while Hun Sen became Senate president. Translation: the family business is still booming. Hun Sen once said he'd cut off his head if he ever lost power. So far, no knives drawn.
ពីអតីតកាលកម្ពុជាបានបាត់បង់ទឹកដីរបស់ខ្លួនច្រើនណាស់ហើយដោយសារការឈ្លានពានដណ្ដើមយកពីបរទេសយើងប្រូផ្ដាច់ការពីបូរណភាពទឹកដីបច្ចុប្បន្នដែលបន្សល់ទុកបន្ទាប់ពីសម័យអាណានិគមនិយមឲ្យគង់វង្សស្ថិតថេរជានិរន្តរ៍មិនឲ្យបាត់បង់សូម្បីតែមួយចំណែកតូចណាក្តី
Now let's hit rewind, because some rulers didn't just cling to power, they defined entire eras. First up, Cuba's Fidel Castro, who was at the helm of the country from 1959 up till 2008. The revolutionary icon ruled Cuba for 49 years, surviving 635 CIA assassination attempts. Yes, really. His regime defied the US, exported revolution to Latin America and Africa, and turned Cuba into a flashpoint of Cold War geopolitics. He became one of the most famous Marxist leaders among the ranks of Lenin and Stalin. Castro once delivered a speech that lasted 7 hours and 10 minutes. Not just his rule, even his words had stamina.
¿Cuál era la alternativa del gobierno revolucionario? Traicionar al pueblo. Desde luego que para el señor presidente de los Estados Unidos, lo que nosotros hemos hecho por nuestro pueblo es traición a nuestro pueblo. Señor presidente, no es nuestra intención faltar absolutamente nada a las reglas que determinan nuestra conducta en las Naciones Unidas. Las mejores tierras de Cuba y las industrias más importantes en todos los órdenes eran propiedades de compañías norteamericanas. Esa fue la situación que encontramos nosotros. Y esa situación no ha de ser extraña a muchos de los países representados en esta asamblea, porque al fin y al cabo, lo que hemos dicho de Cuba no es sino como una radiografía de diagnóstico general aplicable a la mayor parte de los países aquí representados.
Then we have Franco of Spain from 1939 to 1975. After winning the Spanish Civil War, Franco became Spain's dictator for 36 years. He banned political parties, censored media, and executed thousands. Yet, by the end of his rule, he was gradually welcomed by the West during the Cold War as an anti-communist ally. Franco handpicked King Juan Carlos as his successor, only for Juan Carlos to immediately begin Spain's transition to democracy. Talk about a plot twist. Up next, Yugoslavia's Josip Broz Tito from 1945 to 1980. Tito led Yugoslavia for 35 years. A war hero, he resisted both Stalin and NATO, carving a third path for his nation through the non-aligned movement. His death left a void that eventually led to Yugoslavia's disintegration. Interestingly, Tito had over 30 tailor-made military uniforms and was once gifted a tiger by North Korea's Kim Il-sung. Then comes Mobutu Sese Seko. He ruled Zaire from 1965 to 1997. Mobutu renamed Congo as Zaire, created a cult of personality, and ran one of Africa's most corrupt regimes for 32 years. He built a palace in the jungle with airstrips just for Concorde jets. Meanwhile, citizens starved. His hat and leopard skin scarf became so iconic that even opponents called it Mobutism. Then there is Taiwan's Chiang Kai-shek. After losing mainland China to Mao Zedong, Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan and ruled under martial law for 26 years from 1949 to 1975. He built Taiwan into an anti-communist fortress with heavy US support. The US support was so heavy that the US once considered using Taiwan as a base to invade China, and Chiang Kai-shek was reportedly all in. Up next, Ferdinand Marcos from the Philippines. Famous for declaring martial law in 1972, Marcos ruled for 21 years from 1965 to 1986, a time defined by massive debt, repression, and mind-boggling corruption.
They have not grabbed power as some people would put it. In the first place, I was duly elected as president in 1969. If it is of any meaning at all, the Supreme Court has just sustained that decision of our people, indicating that the elections were clean and that the majority of almost 2 million indicated the will of the people.
His wife, Imelda, collected over 3,000 pairs of shoes while the country plunged into poverty. Then comes Indonesia's Suharto. From 1967 to 1998, for 31 years, Suharto's new order controlled Indonesia with military might and business deals. Billions were siphoned by his family and cronies while dissent was crushed. At one point, Suharto's family was said to control over 70% of Indonesia's economy. So what's the secret sauce behind these marathon regimes? How do these leaders stick around? It's not just brute force or charisma. It's strategy, survival, instincts, and yes, a few well-timed constitutional edits. Let's break down the playbook of power longevity. Constitutional gymnastics. Want to stay in office longer? Just rewrite the rules. Uganda's Museveni removed age caps. Russia's Putin hit reset on term limits. And in Congo, Sassou Nguesso pulled off a national referendum in 2015 to allow a fresh start. Democracy is just a word until you edit the fine print. Cults of personality. Mobutu had his leopard hats, Marcos had his shoe-loving wife, and Castro, he had cigars, speeches, and revolutionary swagger. These leaders weren't just politicians, they were brands, icons, untouchable legends in their own narrative. Kim Il-sung of North Korea, though not covered here in depth, took this to a whole new level. He's still the eternal president, 30 years after his death. Control the narrative, control the nation. State-run TV, censored newspapers, and tightly monitored internet all are hallmarks of long-term rule. Iran blocks dissenting voices. Putin's Russia brands critics as foreign agents. And in Cambodia, Hun Sen shut down independent media outright in the years leading up to his son's succession. Information isn't just power, it's insulation. Build a loyal inner circle. Power survives when it's personal. Many long-serving leaders promote family, tribes, or loyalists into key posts. Museveni's son commands the army. Suharto's children owned telecoms and banks. Mobutu handed business monopolies to his relatives. And once that inner circle is invested in your survival, they'll make sure you're never out of power or out of pocket. Sure, some of these long-serving leaders brought stability, economic growth, order, even national pride. But there's a darker side. Long tenures often mean erosion of democratic norms, rigged elections, silencing of dissent, dynastic politics, corruption on a mind-bending scale. Now let's quickly glance over the names we missed out. In Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko has been at the helm since 1994. He calls himself the father of the nation, but to much of the world, Lukashenko is Europe's last dictator. Since 1994, he's held 6 elections, all of them controversial. The 2020 vote sparked mass protests, brutal crackdowns, and exile for the opposition. He once said Belarus would only hold free elections when the West has free elections too. That wasn't sarcasm. Now welcome to the North Korea of Africa, Eritrea. Ruling since 1993, Eritrea's Isaias Afwerki hasn't held a single national election since independence in 1993. Afwerki's regime has no free press, no independent judiciary, and no political opposition. Military conscription is indefinite and escape is nearly impossible. Afwerki studied engineering in China. He returned with Maoist ideas and never looked back. Now, some leaders aren't just elected, they're anointed. Monarchs don't need to win elections because the throne is theirs by blood. But others, especially military rulers, act like kings without the crown. Take Sudan's Omar al-Bashir. A military coup brought him to power in 1989. 30 years of war, repression, and genocide later, Bashir was finally ousted by a mass uprising in 2019. Bashir was the first sitting head of state indicted by the International Criminal Court for genocide in Darfur. But he still ran for re-election and won. Talk about audacity.
We don't listen to the voices coming from here and there. We don't listen to the threats coming from here and there. We don't take into account the resolutions of the African Peace Council or the International Security Council. We implement what we want to implement. If we solve our security problems and feel 100% secure, if no harm comes from the South, then we will not talk about any other issues, not oil, nor trade, nor nationality, nor ABA, nor any other issue.
Libya's Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, who ruled with an iron fist from 1969 till 2011, called his system direct democracy, run by the people. In reality, he ruled Libya for 42 years with flamboyance and fear. Bedouin tents, all-female bodyguards, and a green book of his personal ideology. His fall was as dramatic as his reign, dragged from a drainage pipe and killed by rebels in 2011. By the way, this same Gaddafi once offered Italy the chance to become Libya's colony. Seriously. Even when leaders step down, some don't really leave. They just pass the torch, usually to a son. Take Haidar Aliyev, who ruled Azerbaijan with Soviet-era swagger. His son, Ilham, took over in 2003 and hasn't faced real competition since. In 2009, Ilham changed the constitution to allow unlimited presidential terms. Convenient, right? Azerbaijan's current First Lady, Mehriban Aliyev, is also Azerbaijan's Vice President. Yes, it's a family affair. Syria's Hafez al-Assad ruled for 30 years, then handed the baton to his British-trained ophthalmologist son Bashar al-Assad in 2000. 2 decades and 1 civil war later, Bashar's regime was overthrown in 2024. There have been allegations against his regime being responsible for chemical attacks, mass torture, and one of the worst refugee crises in modern history. Now time for our special mention, North Korea. Not technically in our non-royal list, but worth mentioning. From Kim Il-sung to Kim Jong-il to Kim Jong-un, North Korea is a dynastic dictatorship wrapped in Marxist mythology. The current ruler, Kim Jong-un, is not only feared but bizarrely adored by state media. He is reportedly a military genius, fashion icon, and master of the universe, according to Well himself. It was once claimed that he could drive at age 3. So what happens when the unthinkable happens and these long-standing rulers finally fall? Sometimes there are celebrations, other times chaos. In Iraq, after being in power for 24 years since 1979, Saddam Hussein was overthrown by a US invasion in the year 2003. What followed? A power vacuum, civil war, and rise of ISIS or the Islamic State. Lesson? Removing a strongman is one thing, rebuilding the state, much harder. In Indonesia, after 31 years, Suharto resigned amid protests and an economic meltdown. Indonesia today is a vibrant democracy, but it took years of political reform. In Cuba, Fidel Castro handed power to his brother Raul in 2008. Even after Raul's retirement, Cuba's Communist Party still holds tight control. The revolution outlived the revolutionary. And sometimes, when the ruler finally falls, the institutions are too weak to carry on. From Havana to Kampala, from Moscow to Manila, the story is the same. When one person rules for decades, democracy takes a backseat. But the tides are shifting. Global youth movements, digital activism, and demands for accountability are growing. World's patience with lifelong rulers is wearing thin. Still, in 2025, many strongmen remain firmly in power, some with the ballot, others with the bullet. The question remains, will the 21st century be remembered for breaking these legacies or cementing them? Thank you for watching Statecraft.